Hello friends, welcome to one of the most fascinating subjects where we will be discussing organizational behavior. Let me ask you some questions. Have you ever thought of these questions, or have these questions crossed your mind at some point of time? For example, why do people behave in a certain way in an organizational environment? What factors affect job performance, employee interaction, job commitment, leadership and managerial styles? Individuals have studied this very topic for decades in order to find ways of increasing organizational performance. Organizational behavior is the study of both group and individual performance and activity within an organization. This area of study examines human behavior in a work environment and determines its impact on job structure, performance, communication, motivation, leadership and more. Let us look at the concept of organizational. Organization is a unit of people that is structured and managed to meet a need or to pursue collective goals. All organizations have a management structure that determines relationships between different activities and members, and it subdivides and assigns roles, responsibilities and authority to carry out different tasks. Organizations are open systems. They affect and are affected by their environment. Let us look at the concept of organizational behavior. Organizational behavior studies the impact that the individuals, groups and structures have on human behavior at work. It is an interdisciplinary field that includes sociology, psychology, communication and management. Organizational behavior complements organizational theory, which focuses on organizational and intra-organizational topics, and complements human resource studies, which is a more focused area on everyday business practices. Organizational behavior is particularly relevant in the field of management due to the fact that it encompasses many of the issues managers face on a daily basis. Concepts such as leadership, decision making, team building, motivation and job satisfaction are all facets of organizational behavior and responsibilities of management. Understanding not only how to delegate tasks and organize resources, but also how to analyze behavior and motivate productivity is critical for success in management. Organizational behavior also deals highly in culture. Company or corporate culture is difficult to define, but is extremely relevant to how organizations behave. For example, a stock trading company will have a drastically different work culture than an academic department at a university. Understanding and defining these work cultures and the behavioral implications they set in an organization is also a main topic in organizational behavior. What are management roles? In the late 1960s, a graduate student at MIT, whose name was Henry Mintzberg, undertook a careful study of 5 executives to determine what these managers did on their jobs. Based on his observations of these managers, Mintzberg concluded that managers perform 10 different highly interrelated roles or sets of behaviors attributable to their jobs. These 10 roles can be grouped as being primarily concerned with interpersonal relationships, the transfer of information and decision making. Interpersonal roles. All the managers are required to perform duties that are ceremonial and symbolic in nature. When the president of a college hands out diplomas at a commencement, or a factory supervisor gives a group of high school students a tour of the plant, he or she is acting in a figurehead role. all managers have a leadership role to play. This role includes hiring, training, motivating and disciplining employees. The third role within the interpersonal grouping is the liaison role. Mintzberg described this activity as contracting outsiders who provide the manager with information. These may be individuals or groups outside or inside the organization. The sales manager, who obtains information from the personnel manager, for example, in his or her own company, has an internal liaison relationship. When that sales manager contacts other sales executives through a marketing or trade association, he or she has an outside liaison relationship. Let us look at the informational roles now. All managers will have to some degree receive and collect information from other organizations and institutions outside their own. Typically, this is done through reading magazines and talking with others to learn of the changes in the public's tastes, what competitors may be planning and similar. Mintzberg called this the monitor role. Managers also act as a conduit to transmit information to other organizational members. This is the disseminator role. Managers additionally perform a spokesperson role when they represent their organization to outsiders. Next we come to decisional roles. Finally, Mintzberg identified 4 roles that revolve around the making of choices. In the entrepreneur role, managers initiate and oversee new projects that will improve their organization's performance. As disturbance handlers, managers take corrective action in response to previously unforeseen problems. And as resource allocators, managers are responsible for allocating human, physical and monetary resources. Lastly, managers perform the role of a negotiator. In this role, they discuss and bargain with other units to gain advantages for their own unit. Having seen the roles, let us look at the management skills now. Still another way of considering what managers do is to look at the skills or competencies they need to successfully achieve their goals. Robert Katz has identified 3 essential management skills, namely technical, human and conceptual. What are technical skills? These skills encompass the ability to apply specialized knowledge or expertise. When you think of the skills held by professionals such as civil engineers, tax consultants or surgeons, you typically focus on their technical skills. Through extensive formal education, they have learned the special knowledge and practices of their own field. Of course, professionals do not have a monopoly on their technical skills, and these skills do not have to be learned in schools or just at formal training programs. All jobs require some specialized expertise, and many people develop their technical skills on their jobs. Now coming to another skill, the ability to work with, to understand and motivate other people both individually and in groups are described as human skills. Many people are technically proficient, but it is possible that they are interpersonally incompetent. They might, for example, be poor listeners, unable to understand the needs of others or have difficulty managing conflicts. Since managers get things done through other people, they need to have good human skills to communicate, motivate and to delegate. Managers must have the mental ability to analyze and diagnose complex situations. Friends, now we are talking about conceptual skills. Decision making, for instance, requires managers to spot the problems, identify alternatives that can correct them, evaluate these alternatives and select the best one. Managers can be technically and interpersonally competent, yet they might fail because of an inability to rationally process and interpret information. You might be thinking what activities by managers may be effective and what activities may be successful. If we consider the difference between effective versus successful, then we have to look at Fred Luthans' work. Fred Luthans and his associates looked at the issue of what managers do from a somewhat different perspective. They asked this question: do managers who move up most quickly in an organization do the same activities and with the same emphasis as those other managers who do the best job? You would tend to think that those managers who were the most effective in their jobs would also be the ones who were promoted the fastest. Well, but that is not what appears to have happened. Fred Luthans and his associates studied more than 450 managers. What they found was that these managers all engaged in 4 managerial activities. First was traditional management, which included decision making, planning and controlling. Next was communication. It involved exchange of routine information and processing paperwork. Next came human resource management, and it included, as you can guess, motivating, disciplining, management of conflict, staffing and training. After that came networking. Networking, no surprise again for guessing, includes socializing, politicking and interacting with outsiders. The average manager studied in this research spent 32% of his or her time in traditional management activities, 29% in communication, 20% in human resource management activities and 19% of time in networking. However, the amount of time and effort that different managers spent on these 4 activities varied a great deal. Specifically, managers who were successful and their success was defined in terms of the speed of their promotion within the organization, they had very different emphasis than the managers who were effective, and their effectiveness was defined in terms of the quantity and quality of their performance and satisfaction and commitment of their subordinates. Networking made the biggest relative contribution to a manager's success. Human resource management activities made the least relative contribution. Among effective managers, communication made the largest relative contribution and networking the least. This study adds important insights to our knowledge of what managers do. On an average, managers spend approximately 20 to 30% of their time on each of these 4 activities: traditional management, communication, human resource management and networking. However, successful managers do not give the same emphasis to each of these activities as do effective managers. In fact, their emphasis is almost the opposite. This challenges the historical assumption that promotions are based on performance, vividly illustrating the importance that social and political skills play in getting ahead in an organization. Let us think of various disciplines that contribute to our understanding of organizational behavior. Organizational behavior is an applied behavioral science that is built upon contributions from a number of behavioral disciplines. The predominant areas are psychology, sociology, social psychology, anthropology and political science. Let us consider psychology. Psychology is the science that seeks to measure, explain, and sometimes change the behavior of humans and other animals. Usage of psychological and organizational theory and research to improve organizational effectiveness and the work life of all individuals would be quite useful. Psychologists concern themselves with studying and attempting to understand individual behavior. Earlier, it only included topics like fatigue, boredom, learning, perception, personality, emotions, training, leadership effectiveness, needs and motivational forces, job satisfaction, decision making process, performance appraisals, attitude measurement, employee selection techniques, work design, and job stress. Next field is sociology. Sociologists study the social system in which individuals fill their roles. Sociology studies people in relation to their fellow human beings to improve the organizational performance. Here we study the group behavior in organizations, group dynamics, design of work teams, organizational culture, formal organizational theory and structure, organizational technology, communications, power, and conflict. What is social psychology? It is an area within psychology that blends the concepts from psychology and sociology and that focuses on the influence of people on one another. There is one major area, namely change. It is concerned with how to implement it and how to reduce barriers to the acceptance to change. The study areas are measuring, understanding and changing of attitudes, communication patterns, building of trust, and the ways in which group activities can satisfy individual needs, group decision making processes. Anthropology. It is the study of societies to learn about human beings and their activities. It involves study of culture and environment that helped us understand differences in fundamental values, attitudes and behavior between people in different countries and within different organizations. Political science. Political science is the study of behavior of individuals and groups within a political environment. Its study areas covered are structuring of conflicts, allocations of power, how people manipulate power for individual self-interest. Now we are ready to consider challenges and opportunities faced by organizational behavior as a field of knowledge and practice. Following are some of the most significant problems. One is improving people skills, the other is improving quality and productivity, next is managing workforce diversity, responding to globalization, empowering people, coping with temporariness, stimulating innovation and change, emergence of the e-organization and improvement in ethical behavior. One more challenge is improving people skills, and that includes sub-challenges such as technological changes, coping with structural changes, environmental changes that are accelerated at an ever faster rate in the business field these days. Unless the employees and executives are equipped to possess the required skills so that they adapt to those changes, the achievement of the targeted goals may be not successful in time. There are two different categories of skills: managerial skills and technical skills. Some of the managerial skills include listening skills, motivating skills, planning and organizing skills, leading skills, problem solving skills, decision making skills, and so on. These skills can be enhanced by organizing a series of training and development programs career development programs, induction and socialization, and more. What are the implications of these challenges and changes, you might wonder? Some of the implications include designing an effective performance appraisal system with a built-in training facility to help employees upgrade the skills so that they can cope up with the demands of the external environment. The lower level cadre in an organization is required to possess more of technical skills. As they move toward upward direction, their roles will be remarkably changed and expected to have more of human relations and conceptual skills. Improving quality and productivity. Quality is the extent to which the customers or users believe the product or service to be surpassing their needs and expectations. For example, a customer who purchases an automobile has certain expectation, one of which is that automobile engine will start when it is turned on. If the engine fails to start, the customer's expectations will not have been met and the customer will perceive the quality of the car as poor. Deming defined quality as a predictable degree of uniformity and dependability at low cost and suited to the market, whereas Juran defined it as fitness for use. The key dimensions of quality therefore can be described as follows. Performance. Primary operating characteristics of a product such as signal coverage, audio quality, display quality, etc. Next is features, which are secondary characteristics. Added features such as calculators and alarm clock feature in a handphone. Conformance. Meeting specifications or industry standards, workmanship of the degree to which a product's design or operating characteristics match the pre-established standards. Reliability. The probability of a product's failing within a specified period of time. Durability is a measure of a product's life having both economic and technical dimension. Services. Resolution of problems and complaints, ease of repair. Next is response, which is human to human interface such as the courtesy of the dealer. Next is aesthetics, which includes sensory characteristics such as exterior finish. Next is reputation, which is based on past performance and other intangible variables such as being ranked first. More and more managers are confronting to meet the challenges to fulfill the specific requirements of their customers. In order to improve quality and productivity, they are implementing programs like total quality management and re-engineering that require extensive employee involvement. What is total quality management, you may ask? Often known as TQM, it is a philosophy of management that is driven by the constant attainment of customer satisfaction through continuous improvement of all organizational processes. The components of TQM are A. Intense focus on the customer, B. Concern for continual improvement, C. Improvement in the quality of everything the organization does, D. Accurate measurement, and E. Empowerment of employees. Re-engineering. This refers to discrete initiatives that are intended to achieve radically redesigned and improved work processes in a bounded time frame. Business process re-engineering employs a structural methodology that reduces work processes to their essential composite activities and provides cost performance matrices to facilitate a business case for dramatic improvements. Both functional and cross-functional processes are evaluated through workflow analysis and activity-based costing. In many cases, the application of new technology and industry best practices will enable quantum improvement in an organization's cost and performance. You might wonder what are the implications for managers out of all this. Well, today's managers understand that any effort to improve quality and productivity must influence their employees. These employees will not only be a major force in carrying out changes, but increasingly will participate actively in planning of these changes. Managers will put maximum effort in meeting the customer's requirement by involving everyone at all levels and across the functions. Regular communications, that is both formally as well as informally, with all of the staff at all the levels is a must. Two-way communications at all the levels must be promoted. Identifying training needs and relating them with individual capabilities and requirements of the job is a must. Top management's participation and commitment and a culture of continuous improvement must be established. Managing workforce diversity. This refers to employing different categories of employees who are heterogeneous in terms of their gender, race, ethnicity, religion, community, physical challenges, sexual orientation, age, and so on. The primary reason to employ heterogeneous categories of employees is to tap their talents and potentialities, harnessing their innovativeness, obtaining synergetic effect among diverse workforce. In general, employees want to retain their individual and cultural identity, values and lifestyles, even though they are working in the same organization with common rules and regulations. The major challenge for organizations is to become more accommodating to diverse groups of people by addressing their different lifestyles, family needs and work styles. The implications of this for managers are: managers have to shift their philosophy from treating everyone alike to recognizing individual differences and responding to these differences in ways that will ensure employee retention and greater productivity, while at the same time not discriminating among them. If workforce diversity is managed more effectively, the management is likely to acquire more benefits such as creativity and innovation, as well as improving decision making skills by providing different perspectives on problems. If diversity is not managed properly and showed biases to favor only a few categories of employees, there is potential for higher employee turnover, more difficulty in communicating and more interpersonal conflicts. Okay. So, these are few of the challenges and opportunities that we discussed, and furthermore will be discussed in the next session. So, friends, let us summarize what we discussed in today's session. The most important aspect of professional life is understanding organizational behavior, and that is what we got introduced to. We looked into this concept, managerial roles and skills, effective versus successful managerial activities, and also lastly we glanced through some of the challenges and opportunities of organizational behavior. I hope this knowledge will be of great help to you while you enter the next phase of your career. Thank you very much and wish you all the best.